Ever sat in class staring out the window and wondered, who invented school anyway? You're not alone. It's a question that has probably crossed the mind of every student at some point. We're all familiar with the routine, waking up early, attending classes, completing assignments, and studying for exams. But have you ever stopped to consider the origins of this system? Believe it or not, there was a time, long, long ago, when there were no schools. Imagine a world without classrooms, textbooks, or report cards. A world where learning happened in a completely different way. It's hard to picture, isn't it? No teachers or homework. Can you imagine a life free from the pressures of deadlines and exams? It sounds like a dream, right? But how did people learn and pass on knowledge in those times? Let's travel back tens of thousands of years, to a time before civilization as we know it. We're going on a journey to explore the roots of education and discover how our ancestors acquired the skills they needed to survive. Early humans learned by watching, listening, and doing. No textbooks, no lectures, just the raw, unfiltered experience of life. Their classroom was the world around them, and their curriculum was survival itself. Kids learned to hunt, observing their elders, mimicking their techniques, and honing their skills through practice. Hunting wasn't just a sport, it was a necessity for survival. Gather, identifying edible plants, understanding the seasons, and knowing where to find the best resources. Gathering required a deep understanding of the natural world and a keen eye for detail, and make tools by carefully copying the adults, learning the art of flint knapping and other essential crafts. Tool-making was a crucial skill that allowed early humans to adapt to their environment and improve their chances of survival. Knowledge was passed down face-to-face through stories, songs, and demonstrations. The elders held a wealth of information, and they were responsible for sharing their wisdom with the younger generation to generation, ensuring the survival and prosperity of the tribe. This oral tradition was the foundation of their culture and identity. There were no written records, no books, no scrolls, no tablets. Everything you needed to survive, from hunting techniques to medicinal plants, was stored in people's memories. The human brain was the ultimate storage device. This worked well for small groups, where everyone knew each other and shared a common way of life. But as societies grew and became more complex, life got complicated. The old ways of learning and sharing knowledge started to become inadequate. Farming meant people settled down in one place, cultivating crops and raising animals. This led to a surplus of food and resources. Villages became cities, centers of trade, culture, and innovation. And suddenly, there was a lot more to keep track of. More people, more goods, more information. Land, who owned it, how it was divided. Food, how much was stored, how it was distributed. Trade, what was being exchanged, what were the terms. The human brain is powerful, capable of incredible feats of memory and reasoning. But it has limits. It can only hold so much information. People needed a new way to store and share information, a way to externalize their memories and make knowledge more accessible. That need, that fundamental human desire to understand and control the world, sparked one of the most important inventions in history. An invention that would change the course of civilization forever. Ready to see what changed everything? Ready to witness the birth of a new era in human history? Let's find out. What single invention truly changed the course of human history? What innovation allowed us to build complex societies, preserve knowledge across generations, and ultimately become who we are today? Writing. The ability to capture thoughts, ideas, and information in a tangible form. It all began about 5,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, a region known as the cradle of civilization. Here, amidst the burgeoning cities and complex social structures, a revolutionary system of communication was born. The Sumerians, the inhabitants of this land, created cuneiform, one of the earliest known forms of writing. Cuneiform wasn't based on letters or an alphabet like we use today. Instead, it used wedge-shaped marks pressed into soft, moist clay tablets using a reed stylus. These marks represented objects, ideas, and sounds. This innovation was transformative. For the first time, information could be recorded with accuracy and shared beyond the limitations of human memory. Laws, stories, and commercial transactions could now be preserved for posterity. But learning to read and write cuneiform was no easy task. It was a complex and demanding skill. The cuneiform system consisted of hundreds of symbols, each with its own unique meaning and usage. Mastering it required lots of dedicated practice and rigorous study. This inherent challenge in learning cuneiform led to the creation of the first formal educational institutions, the first schools. These schools were known as edubas, which translates to tablet houses. Within the walls of the Adubas, young students underwent rigorous training to become scribes, the keepers of knowledge and administrators of society. Scribes were absolutely essential to the functioning of Mesopotamian society. They meticulously kept records of everything from agricultural yields to royal decrees. They managed trade, ensuring fair transactions and tracking the flow of goods. And perhaps most importantly, they ran the government, advising rulers and implementing policies. Without their skills and expertise, the complex urban centers of Mesopotamia simply couldn't function effectively. The Aduba wasn't just about imparting general knowledge or fostering intellectual curiosity. It was primarily focused on training a highly skilled workforce, capable of meeting the administrative and economic needs of the state. In essence, the first schools were born out of practical necessity, driven by the demands of a complex society, rather than a purely abstract pursuit of knowledge or curiosity. What was it like in an Aduba? Only boys from wealthy families attended, aiming for the prestigious job of scribe. School days were long, sunrise to sunset, filled with copying cuneiform onto clay tablets. Students memorized hundreds of symbols, lists of words, and basic math for accounting. Advanced students copied myths and proverbs, preserving their culture's stories. Discipline was strict. Mistakes could mean a caning. We even have ancient excuse notes from students. Graduates became the educated elite, respected and influential. School was tough, but it opened doors to power. Formal schooling began to take root and spread throughout Egypt, marking a significant shift in how knowledge was disseminated and preserved. This wasn't just about learning to read and write, it was about creating a class of skilled individuals who could manage the complex affairs of a growing empire. It was in Egypt where scribes played a crucial role, managing massive construction projects like the pyramids, which required meticulous planning, precise calculations, and effective communication. These scribes were the architects of progress, ensuring that every stone was laid in its rightful place. Egyptian students dedicated themselves to mastering hieroglyphics, the sacred writing of their civilization, and delving into the intricacies of mathematics, essential for engineering and administration. Their education was rigorous, demanding countless hours of practice and memorization. Access to this formal education was, for the most part, limited to boys from elite families, ensuring that power and knowledge remained within the upper echelons of society. These privileged few were groomed to become the future leaders and administrators of Egypt. In Greece, the concept of education underwent a profound transformation. Schools shifted their focus, aiming to cultivate well-rounded citizens, individuals equipped not just for specific trades, but for active participation in civic life and intellectual pursuits. The goal was to create a society of informed and engaged individuals. Boys diligently studied reading, immersing themselves in the works of poets, playwrights, and historians, math, exploring the principles of geometry and arithmetic, music and sports, recognizing the importance of both intellectual and physical development. This holistic approach aimed for a sound mind and a sound body, believing that physical fitness was essential for intellectual vigor and moral character. Philosophers like Socrates and Plato taught through the Socratic method, a process of inquiry that involved asking probing questions, challenging assumptions, and sparking critical thinking. This method encouraged students to arrive at their own conclusions through reasoned debate. The Romans, ever pragmatic, borrowed heavily from the Greeks, but placed a greater emphasis on practical skills. Public speaking, essential for success in the forum, law, the foundation of their empire, and management, crucial for administering vast territories. Wealthy Roman children often had private tutors, learned men who instilled in them the values and knowledge necessary for leadership. For them, education was primarily about producing effective leaders, capable of governing and expanding the Roman Republic, and later, the empire. Each civilization, in its own unique way, shaped its educational system to fit its specific needs and aspirations, sometimes prioritizing the acquisition of power, other times the pursuit of wisdom, reflecting the diverse values and goals of these ancient societies. After Rome fell, monasteries became Europe's main centers of learning. Monks copied books by hand, preserving ancient knowledge. Monastery schools trained future monks and priests, focusing on Latin, religion, and logic. Later, cathedral and guild schools appeared, teaching reading, writing, and math to more people. Education slowly spread beyond the church, setting the stage for a new era. The seeds of broader education were planted in these quiet, candle-lit rooms. The Renaissance sparked a hunger for knowledge beyond religion: medicine, law, science. Universities emerged, started by students and teachers as communities of scholars. Classes were lectures from rare books. Students traveled far to learn from famous masters. Passing a tough oral exam earned you a degree, a license to teach. The printing press changed everything, making books cheap and knowledge accessible. Ideas spread fast, fueling revolutions in science and society. School became a place to create and share new knowledge, not just copy the old. Universal public education is a recent idea only a few centuries old. Free schools for all became the norm, aiming to build strong societies and democracies. Classrooms evolved from clay tablets to digital devices, but the goal, sharing knowledge, remains. Today's curriculum is vast: science, art, sports, technology, and more. The aim is to prepare you for a complex world and help you grow as a person. Next time you're in class, remember you're part of a story thousands of years in the making.